Hey, GW coming to you live once again. First of all, I want to thank everybody who has commented on the horror films reviews I did for the 80s horror films. That was pretty cool. My man Ace81 from Finland, what's up? How you doing? To all my fans, we still kicking it. But I want to tell you about a movie I just watched, guys, and you may want to check it out if you're familiar with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre or you haven't seen that film. Definitely rent that, check it out, whatever you got to do. But if you're familiar with that film, then there was another film Tobe Hooper released in 1977, May 13th, 1977 to be exact. And it had a couple of alternate titles: Death Trap, Massacre at Starlight Hotel, and the one that it's known for, guys, is Eaten Alive. Eaten Alive became the title of this movie. Don't know why the other ones don't stick. I think Massacre at Starlight Hotel would pretty much get my attention. But anyway, if you're familiar with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre formula, it takes that and incorporates it into the Bayou. Instead of Leatherface, we have a character called Judd. Judd is a psychotic redneck who owns a hotel, Starlight Hotel, and instead of murdering his guests with a sickle, chainsaw, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself, he murders them with a sickle. Instead of disposing them, eating them like they did in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, he feeds them to a monstrous alligator. In the film, you hear it's claimed to be brought over from Africa and cannot be killed. Now, another point of interest of this movie is it stars Texas Chainsaw Massacre star Marilyn Burns, who played Sally Hardesty. And if you watch the movie, basically the same things that Marilyn Burns goes through in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, she goes through in this movie. It must be in her contract, must have been in her contract because she passed away, God bless her soul, that any movie she did, she got the crap kicked out of her. She got tied up, beaten, whatever. Anyway, being this is a Tobe Hooper film, that's what happened. Interesting point, too, on this film is Tobe Hooper left directing before this film was finished. He got in a fight with the producers and still kept in touch with the cast. Another interesting point about this film is that when you watch it, the United Kingdom cut was cut by 20 seconds. And when you watch it now, it's like, okay, why was it cut? Well, there's a scene where Marilyn Burns' character is getting beaten. Beaten by Judd and then wrapped in a shower curtain. The United Kingdom thought this scene was too intense because the scene was done, and in the scene, the beating takes place in front of Marilyn Burns' daughter. They thought that was too much. You can't beat a mom in front of a daughter, so they cut that scene. They cut that completely out, and it played real briefly. Another point of view in this film is that it stars Nightmare on Elm Street alum and Freddy Krueger extraordinaire Robert Englund. I said that wrong, but Robert Englund's in the movie, and when you watch him, he is one of the best parts of this movie. He's the badass of this film. He's that guy that is so cocky and arrogant you can't take your eyes off him, and his performance really does deliver. Now, same as Neville Brand, who plays Judd. He is psychotic, and he could come across as being totally normal, but then in the blink of an eye can go from that to not all the dogs are barking, if you catch my meaning. The other weird thing about this movie is that it got a lot of negative reviews because it was supposed to be Tobe Hooper's follow-up, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It was supposed to surpass what the Texas Chainsaw Massacre did. It did not, because Hollywood said it was 5 steps down from what they expected from him. Which, if you watch the movie, the movie has a certain dirtiness to it. The atmosphere is amazing, and it sets the tone for the movie, and it really does make the film. The other thing is that you have, like I said, you have Marilyn Burns coming back. You have this newcomer, Neville Brand, who plays Judd, who is awesome. You have Robert Englund, whose character Buck, like I just said a minute ago, makes the film. The only drawback of this film is that being it was in 1977, and probably budget was an issue, the alligator effect wasn't really that great. It looked like a rubberized version of it. But don't let that detract you from the movie. There's plenty of bloodletting in this. When Judd murders people with a sickle, it's pretty wicked. In some cases, in one particular case, he nails this guy in the head, Mel Ferrer, whoever his name is. The sickle goes through his neck and gets stuck. And that's a pretty brutal scene. There's also a couple. Marilyn Burns gets completely topless, which is a plus, you know. But the ending of it left something to be desired, you know. But if you're a fan of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre or, 70s, late 70s, early 80s movies, I suggest you definitely check up Eaten Alive. And, you know, for an hour and 30 minutes, it's not bad. And also, another point of this film was that I took a psychology class in college. And there was a murderer. I want to call him Alligator Joe, but I think I'm wrong about this. That was his nickname. He did actually feed victims to crocodiles. I'll have to dig up on that case, but I remember there was something about that, you know. But, like I said, definitely an underrated horror gem. If you guys haven't seen it, I suggest you check it out. It's not going to be the most polished horror films that you're going to see, but it's right up there. If you like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and you like, you know, these sort of psychos that come out of anywhere, you know, and not all the dogs are barking, and you like that 70s grindhouse tone, definitely check out Eaten Alive. The only other thing I want to say is that being this was a Tobe Hooper film, it did borrow a lot of stuff from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like the scene in Texas Chainsaw Massacre where Sally Hardesty, played by Marilyn Burns, is running from Leatherface in the woods, and he's got the chainsaw going, he's cut branches chasing her, right? They try to reduplicate that scene in this movie. You know, Neville Brand's character Judd chases a victim through the woods, only he doesn't use a chainsaw. He's got that wicked sickle I told you about just a second ago. And it must be in the script where anytime a victim gets away, Tobe Hooper's villains at that time threw a temper tantrum where they either danced around with a chainsaw or they just took the sickle and just started beating weeds. That must be a thing in his films. So definitely, I think that's his signature. We can write that off as a signature. You know what I'm saying? The cast was great. And the story was good, like I said. The only thing is if they would redo it today, it would be great because they could use the computerized animatronic alligator effects, and it would be a hell of a lot more bloodier. But don't sell yourself short. This thing is pretty cool to watch, and I do believe Amazon has or Arrow Video did put out a double disc of this thing, and I'm going to check it out because it was one of those films that I originally passed on because I didn't think it was that good, and I finally got a copy. And it's not exactly that bad. I mean, it's pretty entertaining. And like I said, watch it for Robert Englund's performance as Buck. He has some memorable lines I'm not going to quote here because I know kids are probably watching. But his whole demeanor is just, he's anti-authority. He's great. And he really was cool. The Robert Englund character was just awesome, if nothing else. And just seeing, like I said, Marilyn Burns and in another Tobe Hooper film was pretty awesome. The only thing is that, like I said, Tobe Hooper got in an argument with the producers. That's why the film, I think, took a dive toward the end, where it kind of fell apart just a tad, not too much, but you could see it wasn't under his, directorial, oversight. So, look up Eaten Alive. You will not be disappointed. Or look it up if you like just, monster movies, about alligators, you like the giant, the natural monsters, nature's monsters, I guess you could say. This film does not skimp on the blood, so let's look at the pluses. There's a lot of blood. Marilyn Burns in a Tobe Hooper film, Robert Englund in a Tobe Hooper film, which is pretty awesome. You have Marilyn Burns half naked, which is always a plus. And you have a giant crocodile or alligator. What could go wrong? So I give it 3 stars. Greg Warner says, definitely look into it. Eaten Alive, you will not be disappointed.